Collins sat on the porch of her family's farmhouse, watching the twin suns set over the grain fields of New Terra. The in her hands felt heavier than it should. She had been staring at the message for 10 minutes, reading it over and over, certain she had misunderstood something. "Congratulations on your acceptance to the War Academy," the message began. "You are one of 200 cadets selected from across the galaxy to attend the most prestigious military training facility in known space." Blinked, she read it again. The words did not change. She had applied to the Galactic Civilian Education Program, the one for diplomacy and cultural studies, the one where students learned languages and negotiation tactics, the one where nobody died during training. This was not that program. The War Academy was famous across every civilized world. It was where the galaxy's most dangerous species sent their best warriors to become military commanders. The survival rate was 60%. 40% of cadets either died during training or were permanently disabled. It was not a place for humans. It was not a place for anyone who valued living. Pulled up her original application on the, everything looked correct. She had filled out Form GC 447 for civilian education. She had attached her essays about peaceful cooperation between species. She had listed her qualifications, which included growing up on a farming colony and being really good at chess. Then she saw it. At the bottom of her application in tiny text was a processing code. It read, Milqua 092 instead of CIVGEP 092. Someone or something had transposed two numbers. That single mistake had sent her application to the wrong department entirely. "No," said out loud. "No, no, no." She immediately tried to access the civilian program application portal. A bright red message appeared. "Application window closed. Next enrollment period begins in 14 months. 14 months? More than a year. Felt her stomach sink. Her family had saved for years to send her off-world for education. They could not afford to keep her home for another year while she waited for the next application cycle. The farm barely made enough to support her parents and two younger brothers as it was. She looked at the acceptance letter again. The War Academy was free, completely free. The Galactic Military Council funded it entirely because they wanted the best commanders protecting their borders. Students paid nothing. They just had to survive. Stood up and walked inside. Her mother was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Her father was reviewing crop reports on his old. They both looked up when she entered. "Did you get your acceptance letter?" her mother asked, smiling. "I did," said. She handed her mother the. Her mother's smile vanished as she read. Her father took them from her hands, his face going pale. "This is a mistake," her father said. "We need to contact them immediately. We need to fix this." "I tried," said. "The civilian program is closed for another 14 months. If I do not take this, I have to wait." "Then you wait," her mother said firmly. "You are not going to that place. Children die there. Trained warriors die there." "We cannot afford for me to wait," said quietly. "You know we cannot." Her parents exchanged a look. It was the look they always shared when talking about money. The look that said they were trying to figure out which bills to pay and which to delay. "We will find a way," her father said, but his voice lacked conviction. Took the back. She looked at the acceptance letter one more time. Then she smiled. It was the same smile she always had when facing something difficult. The smile that had gotten her through harsh winters and failed crops and the loneliness of growing up on a colony world where nothing exciting ever happened. "What if I want to go?" she asked. Both her parents stared at her. "What if this is actually amazing?" continued. "Think about it. The War Academy. Nobody from Earth or any human colony has ever attended. I would be the first. That is incredible." "That is suicidal," her mother said. "Maybe," admitted. "But maybe not. The Academy does not train soldiers. It trains commanders, people who think, people who solve problems. I am good at solving problems." "You are good at chess," her father said. "That is not the same as surviving combat trials designed for species that evolved to hunt megafauna." "So I will have to be smarter than them," said, her smile growing wider. "That sounds like fun." "Fun," her mother repeated, her voice flat. "You think War Academy sounds fun?" "I think it sounds like an adventure," said. "And I think it is free. And I think if I do not take opportunities when they appear, even weird ones, I will spend my whole life wondering what would have happened." Her father rubbed his face with both hands. Sweetie, I love your optimism. I love that you see challenges as opportunities, but this is not fixing a broken irrigation system. This is not winning a debate competition. This is life and death. I know, said. Her smile faded slightly, becoming something more serious. I am not stupid. I know it is dangerous, but I also know that I am 17 years old and this might be the only chance I ever get to leave New Terra. The only chance to see the galaxy. The only chance to do something that matters. Your life matters, her mother said. I know it does, replied. That is why I want to do something with it. 3 weeks later, stood in the cargo bay of a transport ship, watching New Terra shrink in the viewport. Her parents had argued for days. They had contacted the academy. They had tried every possible way to fix the error or get her transferred. Nothing had worked. In the end, they had held her tight and made her promise to come home if it got too dangerous. Had promised, though she was not sure what too dangerous meant at a place where danger was the whole point. The transport took 5 days to reach the orbital station where the academy was located. Spent the time reading everything she could find about the and the other species that typically attended. She learned that there were 8-foot-tall reptilian warriors who had conquered 12 star systems before joining the Galactic Council. She learned that the academy accepted only apex predator species. She learned that humans were classified as a Category 4 species, which meant developing civilization with limited combat capability. She also learned that no human had ever applied to the academy before, probably because no human wanted to die that badly. When the transport docked, grabbed her single bag and followed the signs to the registration hall. The corridor was tall, very tall. It had been built for species much larger than humans, felt like a child walking through a building made for giants. She entered the registration hall and stopped. The room was massive, with ceilings that stretched 50 feet high, and it was full of aliens, hundreds of them. Saw them immediately, their scaled skin gleaming under the lights, their clawed hands resting on weapons that seemed ceremonial but probably were not. She saw creatures with 4 arms and compound eyes. She saw beings made of what looked like living crystal. She saw species she could not even begin to classify. And every single one of them was bigger than her, much bigger. Walked toward the registration desk. Aliens moved out of her way, some looking confused, others looking amused. One actually laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. The administrator at the desk was a female with dark green scales and 3 scars across her snout. She looked down with yellow eyes that showed no emotion. You are lost, small one, the administrator said. Her voice was deep and resonant. The civilian sector is on level 12. I am not lost, said. She held up her, showing the acceptance letter. I am here to register. The administrator took she read the letter. Her eyes widened slightly, which took as a sign of surprise. This cannot be correct, the administrator said. You are human, we do not accept humans. You accepted me, said, pointing at the letter. That is an official acceptance from your admissions system. The administrator tapped her own terminal, her claws clicking against the screen. She read something, her expression darkening. There has been a mistake, she said finally. A clerical error. Your application was meant for civilian education. I know, said, but the civilian program is closed for over a year, so I am here instead. You cannot be serious, the administrator said. Small one, do you understand what this academy is? 40% of our cadets do not survive to graduation. 40% of trained warriors from the most dangerous species in the galaxy. You are human. You are small. You will die in the first week. Maybe, said. She smiled, the same smile she had given her parents. But maybe not, and either way I have an acceptance letter, so unless you are going to deny an official acceptance, I believe you have to let me register. The administrator stared at her for a long moment. Then she made a sound that might have been a sigh or might have been a growl. If you die, it is not our responsibility, she said. Your species will not hold the academy liable. Agreed, said. The administrator processed her registration with sharp, angry movements. When she finished, she handed a data chip. Barracks assignment, schedule, and equipment requisition, she said. Orientation begins in 6 hours. Do not be late. Thank you, said. As she turned to leave, the administrator spoke again. Small one, why are you smiling? Looked back, because I am about to do something nobody has ever done before. That is worth smiling about. The administrator watched her go. shaking her head. Around the registration hall, other cadets had stopped to stare at the tiny human who had just registered for the most dangerous military academy in the galaxy. Walked through them all head high, smile fixed on her face, bag over her shoulder. She had no idea what she was walking into. She had no idea if she would survive even a single day. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. 6 hours later, stood in formation with 200 other cadets in the main training hall. The gravity felt wrong. Everything felt heavy, including her own body. She had read that the Academy operated at 1.8 times standard gravity to accommodate the and other heavy world species. For who had grown up on New Terra's one-gravity environment, it felt like wearing a backpack full of stones. A massive male stood on the platform at the front of the hall. His scales were deep crimson, almost black in places, and his eyes swept across the assembled cadets with cold evaluation. "I am War Master," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "I have commanded fleets in 17 battles. I have trained warriors for 40 years, and I will tell you now that most of you will fail." He paused, letting the words sink in. "This academy does not exist to make you comfortable. It exists to forge commanders who can lead in the worst conditions imaginable. You will be tested every day. You will be pushed beyond what you think possible. Some of you will break. Some of you will die. This is expected. This is acceptable. What is not acceptable is cowardice." Listened carefully, her legs already aching from standing in the heavy gravity. Around her, the other cadets stood perfectly still. She tried to copy their stance. "You have been divided into squads of 6, War Master continued. "Your squad is your family now. You succeed together. You fail together. When I call your designation, move to your assigned area." He began reading names and numbers, waited, watching as groups of cadets moved to different sections of the hall. They all moved with confidence and power. She felt very small. "Delta 7, War Master called." Walked to the designated area, her steps careful in the heavy gravity. 5 other cadets were already there. They all turned to look at her. None of them looked happy. The largest was a male with gray-green scales and a scar running down his left arm. He had to be 8 feet tall and built like a tank. His yellow eyes narrowed when he saw. "No," he said simply, "absolutely not." "I am Collins," said, extending her hand in greeting. "I look forward to working with you." They did not take her hand. "I am Vex, squad leader, and you are a mistake that will get us all killed." One of the other squad members made a clicking sound, turned to see a being with 4 arms and compound eyes that shimmered blue and green. Its chitinous body was covered in what looked like natural armor. "I am," the said in a surprisingly soft voice. "Do not take Vex personally. He is always angry." "I am angry because Command has given us a human," Vex growled. "Humans are soft, weak. She will slow us down." "Then I will try not to slow you down," said, still smiling. The other 3 squad members introduced themselves. A hulking creature covered in thick fur, a sleek reptilian female with purple scales, and who looked like a walking boulder made of living stone. All of them were at least twice size. All of them looked at her like she was a problem they did not want to solve. War Master's voice boomed across the hall again. "Your first trial begins now. You will enter the combat simulation. Your objective is simple. Survive for 1 hour while automated defense drones hunt you. Work together or die alone. Squads that lose more than 2 members fail and are dismissed from the academy immediately." The floor beneath them began to shift, felt the platform lowering, carrying them down into what had to be the simulation chamber. The other squads were being lowered as well, each into their own separate zone. The platform stopped. The walls around them dissolved, replaced by a holographic environment that looked terrifyingly real. They were in a ruined city, buildings crumbling around them, smoke rising from fires in the distance. The sky above was dark with storm clouds. "1 hour begins now," a computerized voice announced. Immediately, Vex started giving orders. "Take point, aerial reconnaissance, mid-range support, human, stay in the center and try not to die." They began moving through the ruins, followed, struggling with the heavy gravity and trying to keep up. The others moved with practiced ease, their bodies adapted to these conditions, felt like she was wading through water. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Vex held up one clawed hand, signaling a stop. 3 drones appeared around a corner, their weapons already tracking toward the squad. "Engage," Vex ordered, and charged forward, launched herself into the air with powerful legs, began firing some kind of energy weapon from its forearms. The combat was brutal and fast. Within seconds, 2 drones were destroyed. The third retreated. "We pursue," Vex said. "Wait," called out. Everyone stopped and turned to look at her. "What?" Vex demanded. "The drone retreated around that corner," said, pointing. "Why would it retreat unless it was leading us somewhere?" "Because we damaged it," Vex said impatiently. "We did not damage it," replied. "I was watching, no shots hit, it retreated on purpose." Vex looked like he wanted to argue, but made a thoughtful clicking sound. "The human may be correct," said. "Tactical retreat is a common training scenario." "Fine," Vex said. "We go around, but we are wasting time." They circled the building instead of following the drone. As they came around the other side, saw 4 drones waiting in ambush positions exactly where Vex would have led them. "The human was right," said, surprise in her voice. Vex grunted but said nothing. They eliminated the drones from an unexpected angle and kept moving. Over the next 40 minutes began to notice things. The drones followed patterns. They patrolled in regular intervals. They responded to loud noises and movement, but seemed to have blind spots in their sensors. She started pointing these things out quietly, too, who relayed them to Vex. At first, Vex ignored her observations, but when successfully predicted another ambush by watching drone patrol timing, he started to listen. With 10 minutes remaining, they were trapped. Drones surrounded them on 3 sides, and the 4th side was a collapsed building that looked impossible to cross. "We fight through," Vex said, readying his weapon. "We cannot win that fight," said. "There are too many." "Then what do you suggest, human?" Vex snapped. Looked at the collapsed building. Then she looked up at the structure still standing beside it. An idea formed. "How strong are you?" The stone-like being rumbled. "Strong enough." "Can you break that support beam?" Pointed at a cracked pillar holding up what remained of the building's upper floor. "Yes, why?" "Because if you break it, the floor collapses. It will create a ramp over the rubble. We can cross while the drones reposition." "That is insane," Vex said. "Do you have a better idea?" asked. Vex looked at the approaching drones, then he looked at the building, then he growled. "Do it." Charged the pillar and hit it with tremendous force. The structure groaned, cracked, and collapsed exactly as it predicted. The falling debris created a chaotic ramp of broken concrete and metal. It also created a massive dust cloud that obscured the drone's sensors. "Move," Vex shouted. They ran through the dust, scrambling over the debris. Its legs burned from the effort and the heavy gravity, but she kept moving, helped pull her over the worst sections with 2 of its 4 arms. They emerged on the other side just as the timer reached 0. "Trial complete," the computerized voice announced. "Delta 7, 0 casualties, 6 secondary objectives completed, time remaining 0 minutes 12 seconds, rank 23rd percentile." The simulation dissolved. They were back in the training hall, standing on the platform with the other squads. Some squads were missing members. 2 squads were completely gone, their platforms empty. War Master appeared on the central platform again. 63% of you survived," he said. "This is acceptable. Those who did not survive or whose squads failed entirely have been dismissed. The rest of you will continue training." He looked directly at Delta 7. For a moment his eyes focused on. "Some of you succeeded through strength," he said. "Some through speed, some through intelligence. Remember this, there are many ways to win a battle. The warrior who only knows one way is already defeated." The cadets were dismissed to their barracks. As Delta 7 walked together, Vex moved beside. He did not look at her, but he spoke quietly. "You did well, human." "Thank you," said. "Do not expect praise again," Vex added, "and do not expect the trials to get easier." "I would not want them to," replied, smiling. Vex shook his head and walked ahead, clicked softly beside. "You are strange, Collins," they said. "You should be afraid, but you smile." "I am afraid," admitted. "I am terrified, actually. My legs hurt, I can barely breathe in this gravity, and I have no idea how I survived that trial." "Then why smile?" "Because I did survive," said. "And tomorrow I get to try again. That is amazing." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are very strange." In her assigned bunk that night, pulled out her personal and recorded a message for her parents. She told them about the trial. She told them about her squad. She did not tell them how scared she had been or how much her body hurt. Instead, she told them that she had found something she was good at. She told them that for the first time in her life, being small and being human felt like advantages instead of weaknesses. And she told them that tomorrow, the real training would begin. War Master had announced it during evening assembly. In 3 days, they would face the gauntlet, a 72-hour survival trial on a hostile moon. Cadets were allowed to withdraw before the trial with no penalty. Had been the first to sign up. When Vex saw her name on the registration list, he had stopped and stared at it for a full minute. Then he had looked at her, standing nearby, still smiling like this was all some wonderful game. "You are going to get yourself killed, human," he had said. The transport ship descended through thick gray clouds toward the moon's surface. Sat strapped into her seat, watching the other members of Delta 7 prepare their equipment. Each cadet had been given a basic survival pack, water purification tablets, a knife, emergency rations for 2 days, and a distress beacon to be used only in life-threatening situations. Using the beacon meant automatic failure. "Listen carefully," Vex said, addressing the squad. "This moon has acid rain every 6 hours. The local predators hunt in packs. The temperature drops to freezing at night. We have 72 hours to reach the extraction point 300 kilometers from our drop zone." "That is a lot of ground to cover," said, her purple scales rippling with concern. "Which is why we move fast and avoid unnecessary conflicts," Vex replied. He looked at each squad member in turn. His eyes lingered on Longest. "Everyone stays together. No one gets left behind, understood?" They all nodded. The transport touched down with a heavy thud. The cargo door opened, revealing a landscape of twisted rock formations and sickly purple vegetation. The air that rushed in smelled like sulfur and decay. "Go," the pilot said. "Your time starts now." Delta 7 jumped from the transport. The moment its feet hit the ground, the ship lifted off behind them, leaving them alone on the hostile moon. The gravity here was slightly less than the Academy's 1.8 standard, but still heavier than what had grown up with. At least it felt marginally easier to move than during training. "Formation," Vex ordered, "and on point and flanks center we move northeast toward the first checkpoint." They began walking across the rocky terrain. The purple vegetation crunched under their feet, releasing small puffs of spores that made eyes water. She pulled a cloth over her nose and mouth. They had been traveling for 2 hours when they heard the howling. Vex raised his fist. Everyone stopped. The howling came again, closer this time. It sounded like nothing had ever heard, a combination of screaming and laughter that made her skin crawl. "Moon predators," Vex said quietly. "Pack hunters, 15, maybe 20 individuals." "We can fight them," growled, his fur bristling. "No," said. Everyone turned to look at her. "I mean, we could fight them, but why waste energy and risk injury when we can avoid them?" "The human is right," clicked. "We should evade." Vex considered this, could see the conflict on his face. For a warrior, avoiding a fight probably felt wrong, but he was also their squad leader, responsible for their success. "Fine," he said finally. "We detour east and circle around their territory." They changed direction, moving quietly through the rocks. The howling continued behind them, but it grew more distant. After 30 minutes, it faded entirely. "Good call, human," Vex said grudgingly. They made good progress for the next several hours. Then the sky began to darken and tasted the air with her forked tongue. "Acid rain coming," she said. "Less than 15 minutes." "We need shelter," Vex said, looking around. The landscape offered few options, mostly just open rock fields and scattered boulders. Climbed onto one of the larger rock formations and scanned the area. In the distance, she saw what might be a cave entrance. "There," she said, pointing. "That dark patch in the cliff face could be a cave." "Could be a predator den," countered. "Or it could be shelter from acid rain," replied. "I know which risk I prefer." They ran for the cave. The first drops of rain began falling as they reached it. Where the rain hit exposed rock, it sizzled and smoked. Watched one drop land on her sleeve and immediately burn through the fabric. She yanked off the ruined sleeve piece before it could touch her skin. The cave was deeper than it appeared from outside. They moved in carefully, weapons ready, checking for threats. It appeared empty. The walls showed signs of past habitation by something large, but whatever had lived here was long gone. Outside, the rain intensified. It hammered against the rocks with a sound like breaking glass. Steam rose where it struck the ground. 6 hours of this, Vex said, settling against the cave wall. We rest, eat, then we continue when it stops. Sat down, grateful for the chance to rest. Her legs ached. Her shoulders hurt from carrying the pack. Her hands had blisters from climbing over rocks, but she was alive. They were all alive. Moved beside her, its crystalline body catching the dim light from outside. You observe things, said quietly, more than the others. I have to, replied. I cannot outfight anything here. I cannot outrun most things, so I have to outthink them. It is a good strategy, said. On my world, they have a saying, the smallest crystal can shatter the largest stone if placed correctly. Smiled, I like that saying. They shared some of their rations. Vex distributed water carefully, rationing what they had. As they ate, suddenly stiffened. Movement, she hissed, deep in the cave. Everyone went silent. In the darkness beyond their position, something moved, something big. Vex stood slowly, hand on his weapon. Stay behind me. A creature emerged from the shadows. It was massive, easily 12 feet tall, with 6 legs and a mouth full of crystalline teeth that gleamed in the low light. Its eyes, multiple sets of them, focused on the squad. Back away slowly, Vex whispered. The creature took a step forward, then another. It made a low rumbling sound that vibrated through the cave floor. Looked around frantically. The acid rain blocked the exit. Going deeper into the cave meant going toward whatever else might be back there. They were trapped. Then she noticed something. The creature was not looking at them with aggression. It was looking at them with what might be confusion, and it was not advancing aggressively. It was moving carefully, almost cautiously. Wait, said, I do not think it wants to attack us. It is a predator, Vex said. Of course it wants to attack. Then why has it not attacked yet? Asked. It is bigger than all of us combined. It could charge right now and we could not stop it, but it is not charging, it is being careful. Made a thoughtful clicking sound. The human may be correct. Its body language does not suggest hunting behavior. The creature took another step forward, then stopped. It looked at the cave entrance where rain continued to fall. Then it looked back at the squad. It wants shelter, said with sudden understanding. Just like we do, this is its cave, we are in its home. So what do we do? Asked. Thought fast. We share it. Look, the cave is big enough for all of us. We stay on this side, it stays on that side. Everyone stays dry. Everyone survives the rain. That is insane, said. Do you have a better idea? Asked. No one did. Slowly, carefully, stood up. She moved to the side of the cave, making space. She sat down in a position that kept her away from the creature, but also away from the cave entrance. We are just here for the rain, she said to the creature, knowing it probably could not understand her words, but hopping her tone conveyed meaning. You can have your cave back when it stops. The creature watched her. Then, amazingly, it moved to the opposite side of the cave and settled down. It kept its many eyes on the squad, but it made no aggressive moves. The rest of Delta 7 slowly moved to join on their side of the cave. They sat in tense silence for several minutes. The creature did not move. They did not move. This is the strangest thing I have ever done, Vex said quietly. It is working, though, pointed out. They waited out the rain, sharing the cave with the massive predator. When the acid rain finally stopped 6 hours later, the creature stood, looked at them one more time, and walked deeper into its cave. It did not attack. It did not chase them. It simply left them alone. I will never understand humans, Vex said as they exited the cave. They continued their journey. Over the next 2 days, they faced more challenges. They found water in pools that had to be carefully filtered. They encountered another squad trying to ambush them for supplies and noticed their position before the ambush could succeed, allowing Delta 7 to trigger a rock slide that forced the other squad to retreat. By the time they were halfway through the trial, they were exhausted, bruised, and running low on rations. But they were all still alive, and they were making good time toward the extraction point. Then disaster struck. They were crossing a narrow ridge when another pack of moon predators appeared. This time, there was no avoiding them. The pack had them surrounded, cutting off all escape routes. "Defensive formation," Vex ordered. They formed a circle, weapons ready. The predators circled them, looking for weakness. There were at least 20 of the creatures, all of them fast and aggressive. The first predator lunged, met it head-on, his massive strength throwing it back. But 3 more attacked immediately after. The battle became chaos. Tried to stay in the center, out of the fighting. But one predator broke through, heading straight for her. She raised her knife, knowing it would not be enough. Vex appeared from nowhere, intercepting the creature. He fought with brutal efficiency, his claws and teeth matching the predator's weapons. But another predator attacked him from behind. Vex went down hard. Saw him fall. She saw the predator standing over him, ready to deliver a killing blow. Without thinking, she ran forward and threw herself at the creature, knife stabbing desperately. She was too small to hurt it badly, but she was enough of a distraction. Reached them and killed the predator with one massive strike. The remaining predators, seeing several of their pack dead, retreated into the rocks. The battle was over. Knelt beside Vex. He had a deep gash across his chest where the predator's claws had caught him. Blood was flowing freely. "Do not move," said. She pulled out their medical supplies, her hands shaking. She had taken basic first aid training on New Terra, but this was far beyond anything she had practiced. She cleaned the wound as best she could and applied pressure to stop the bleeding. Vex's yellow eyes watched her as she worked, pain evident in his expression. "You should have stayed back," he said through gritted teeth. "If I had stayed back, you would be dead," replied. She wrapped bandages around his chest, pulling them tight. "Why did you help me?" Vex asked. "I have been nothing but hostile to you." "Because you are my squad leader," said simply, "and because it was the right thing to do." She finished bandaging the wound and sat back. Around them, the rest of the squad was catching their breath. Everyone had injuries, but Vex's was the worst. "Can you walk?" asked. Vex tested his weight. He grimaced but nodded. "I can walk." As she helped him stand, noticed something glowing in the cave walls around them. Bioluminescent fungi, creating patterns of soft blue light. It was beautiful in a strange, alien way. "Look at that," she said, pointing. Vex followed her gaze. "We are in the middle of a hostile moon. I am bleeding, and you are looking at pretty lights." "Yes," said, smiling despite everything. "Because being terrified and in pain does not make the lights any less beautiful. And choosing to notice beautiful things, even in terrible situations, is what keeps me going." Vex stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a growl. "You are insane, human." "Maybe," agreed, "but I am still here." They continued toward the extraction point, moving slower now with Vex injured. When they finally reached it with 2 hours to spare, all 6 members of Delta 7 were exhausted, wounded, and covered in mud and blood. But they were alive, all of them. The extraction ship landed, and the pilot looked surprised to see them all standing. "Delta 7, she said. 6 members, all functional, well done." As they boarded the ship, Vex caught arm. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for the wound, for helping me walk, for everything." "You are welcome," replied. "I was wrong about you," Vex continued. "You are not weak, you are different, but different is not weak." Smile grew wider. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has said to me since I got here." The ship lifted off, carrying them back to the academy. Through the viewport, watched the hostile Mu 2 months into training, had developed a reputation. The other cadets no longer laughed when they saw her in the training halls. They no longer assumed she would fail every trial. Instead, they watched her with a mixture of confusion and wary respect. Her tactical scores ranked in the top 10% of all cadets. Her physical scores remained at the very bottom. She could not lift what the others lifted. She could not run as fast or fight as hard. But she always found another way to succeed. The instructors had started using her performance as teaching examples. In strategy class, they showed videos of how she had navigated the gauntlet using observation and diplomacy instead of combat. In survival training, they analyzed her decision to share the cave with the predator instead of fighting it. Not everyone appreciated this attention. Was a warrior from a prominent military family. He stood 7.5 feet tall, with scales the color of dried blood and scars that told stories of training victories. He ranked first in combat trials. He ranked first in physical challenges. He was everything the Academy valued in a warrior. And he hated that anyone paid attention to the small human female who ranked so poorly in the areas he dominated. First noticed his hostility during a tactics simulation. The scenario involved defending a position against superior numbers. Most cadets chose aggressive strategies, meeting force with force. Had suggested a defensive approach that used the terrain to neutralize the enemy's numerical advantage. The strategy had worked perfectly in the simulation. The instructor had praised it. Had stood up in the middle of class and challenged it. "This is coward thinking," he had said, his voice loud enough to make everyone stop and listen. "A true warrior does not hide behind rocks and wait. A true warrior meets the enemy head-on. A true warrior stays alive to fight another day," had replied calmly. "Dead warriors do not win wars." The class had gone silent. Challenging a warrior directly was not done, especially not by someone half his size. The instructor had quickly moved the discussion forward, but had seen the look in his eyes. She had made an enemy. Over the following weeks, went out of his way to undermine her. He made comments about humans being weak. He questioned her presence at the academy. He convinced other cadets that her successes were luck rather than skill. Ignored it as much as possible. She had learned early that responding to bullies only encouraged them. She focused on her training, on improving her skills, on proving herself through results rather than words. Then made a formal challenge. It happened during combat training. The entire cadet class was assembled in the arena, practicing various fighting techniques. Stepped into the center of the ring and called out's name. "Collins," he said, his voice echoing through the arena, "I challenge you to single combat." The room went completely silent. All eyes turned to. She knew what this meant. At the War Academy, formal challenges were part of the culture. They were used to settle disputes, establish hierarchy, and test courage. Refusing a challenge meant losing all credibility. It meant admitting you were afraid. But accepting meant fighting, one-on-one, in front of everyone. Looked at him standing in the center of the arena. He outweighed her by at least 200 pounds. His reach was twice hers. He had trained in combat since childhood. She had taken one self-defense class on New Terra 3 years ago. This was not a fight she could win. Vex appeared beside her. "You do not have to accept," he said quietly. "Everyone knows this is not a fair match." "If I refuse, I lose everything I have built here," said. "Every ounce of respect, every bit of credibility." "If you accept, you could be seriously injured," Vex countered. "Or worse." "I know," said. She took a deep breath. Then she stepped forward into the arena. "I accept your challenge," she called out. Smile was not pleasant. "Excellent. We fight in 3 days, full contact, no weapons, first unconscious loses." The next 3 days were the longest of his life. She knew she could not win through strength or speed or fighting ability. Those were advantages, and they were overwhelming. So she did what she always did. She studied. She watched every recording of his previous fights. She analyzed his patterns, his preferences, his weaknesses. She learned about honor culture and what mattered most to warriors like him. Found her in the library late one night, surrounded by data screens showing fight footage. "You are not training your body," they observed. "My body cannot beat him," said. "No amount of training in 3 days will change that, so I am training my mind instead." "What will you do?" "I will survive as long as possible," said. "And I will make him work for the victory. That is all I can do." Was quiet for a moment. "You know you will lose." "Yes." "Then why accept the challenge?" "Because refusing would mean I think I do not belong here," said. "And I do belong here. I have earned my place. So I have to show everyone that I am willing to fight for it, even if I cannot win." On the day of the fight, the entire academy gathered in the main arena. Word had spread about the challenge. Everyone wanted to see the tiny human fight the legendary. Stood in her corner of the arena, stretching carefully. Her plan was simple: stay moving, use the environment, make chase her, and last as long as possible. She was not trying to win. She was trying not to be humiliated. Entered from the opposite side. He looked confident, almost bored. To him, this was going to be quick and easy. War Master stood at the edge of the arena. "This is a formal challenge under Academy rules. Fight until one combatant is unconscious or yields. Lethal force is prohibited. Begin." Moved first, He was fast for his size, closing the distance in seconds, dodged to the side, using a training dummy as a barrier between them, smashed through the dummy like it was made of paper. Kept moving, she circled the arena using every obstacle, followed his movements efficient and controlled. He was not even breathing hard yet. He caught her after 30 seconds. His clawed hand grabbed her shoulder and threw her across the arena, hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Pain exploded through her side. She forced herself to stand, was already coming. This time when he grabbed for her, dropped low and rolled between his legs. It was a move that would have been clumsy and obvious against a human opponent, but's height worked against him. By the time he turned around, was already moving again. The pattern continued, would catch her, he would hit her or throw her, would get up and keep moving. The crowd started making sounds of surprise. Everyone had expected this to be over in under a minute. They were now approaching 3 minutes. 4 minutes, 5 minutes. His entire body was one mass of pain. She had a split lip, bruised ribs, and what felt like a cracked bone in her left hand, but she kept getting up. Every time she went down, she stood back up, and every time she stood up, she smiled. That smile seemed to infuriate. He had expected her to quit. He had expected her to cry or beg or show fear. Instead, she just kept smiling at him, blood on her teeth, standing on shaky legs, ready for more. At the 7-minute mark, saw an opening. Had been fighting for 7 minutes straight, which was nothing for him normally. But he had been fighting angry, using more energy than necessary, frustrated by his inability to keep her down. He charged forward with a powerful strike, waited until the last possible second, then dropped flat. His momentum carried him forward and kicked out at his ankle. It should not have worked. Kicking a warrior was like kicking a stone pillar, but was off balance and the kick hit at exactly the right angle. He stumbled. Rolled away and to her feet. For one brief, beautiful moment, she had made him stumble. The crowd gasped. Then recovered and backhanded her so hard she flew 3 meters before hitting the wall. This time, when she tried to stand, her legs would not support her. The world was spinning. She could taste blood. She got to her knees, then to 1 foot. She was trying to stand when reached her. "Stay down," he said. There was something strange in his voice, not anger, something else. "No," said. She pushed herself up, using the wall for support. She stood, swaying, barely conscious, still smiling. Looked at her, really looked at her. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the arena. He stepped back and lowered his hands. "Enough," he called out to War Master. "The human has proven her courage. I declare this challenge satisfied." The arena erupted in confused noise. In culture, challenges ended with unconsciousness or yielding, had done neither. He had simply declared the fight over. War Master approached the arena floor. "The challenge is not complete." "The challenge was never about victory," replied. "It was about testing her courage. She has shown more courage in 12 minutes than most warriors show in a lifetime. She has earned my respect. The challenge is satisfied." Looked at who was now being supported by Vex and who had jumped into the arena. Then he looked at the crowd. Then he nodded. "Challenge satisfied," he declared. "Winner by declaration. Honor awarded Collins for exceptional courage." Was taken to the medical facility. She had 3 cracked ribs, a fractured hand, a mild concussion, and extensive bruising. The doctor, a squat alien with 6 tentacles, patched her up while muttering about stupid young warriors. "You should be more careful," the doctor said. "Your body is not built for this kind of punishment." "I know," said, "but my spirit is." She was released the next day with orders to rest for 3 days. She ignored the orders and went to training the next morning. Was there, when he saw her enter, he crossed the training hall and stood before her. The entire room watched. "You have courage, human," he said formally. "I was wrong to doubt your place here. You belong at this academy as much as any warrior." He extended his clawed hand, took it. "Thank you," she said. "That fight was the hardest thing I have ever done." "You smiled every time I hit you," said. "Why?" "Because every time I got up I proved something," replied. "To you, to everyone watching, and to myself, that is worth smiling about." Made a rumbling sound that might have been a laugh. "You are strange, Collins, but you are brave." Word of the fight spread through the academy. The video was watched thousands of times. Became known as the Smiling Terror, the human who kept getting up no matter how many times she was knocked down. Cadets who had ignored her before now nodded when she passed. Instructors who had doubted her abilities now gave her challenging assignments. Vex told her she had earned the respect of Delta 7 completely. But's favorite response came from, who visited her in medical the night after the fight. "You knew you would lose," they said, "but you fought anyway." Yes, agreed. "Why?" "Because some things are worth doing even if you cannot win," said. "Sometimes just trying is the victory." His crystalline body chimed softly. A sound had learned meant deep thought. "You are teaching us all something, Collins. You are teaching us that strength comes in many forms." 3 weeks later, War Master announced the final trial of the semester, a week-long war game simulation. It would be the most complex challenge they had faced. Squads would compete against each other for ranking. The losing squad would be expelled from the academy entirely. When Vex gathered Delta 7 to plan their strategy, he looked at. "What do you think, strategist?" he asked. The war game terrain covered an entire moon. 40 squads would compete across 7 days for ranking and survival. Each squad started with a base location, basic supplies, and a list of objectives scattered across the landscape. Points were awarded for capturing and holding objectives, with bonus points for time held and strategic value. Most squads would rush to capture the highest value objectives immediately. That meant the first few days would be chaos as everyone fought over the same locations. Had spent 3 days studying the rules and point system. She had found something interesting that most squads seemed to have missed. "Here," she said, pointing to the tactical map displayed in Delta 7's preparation room. "These 3 objectives are low-value targets. Everyone will ignore them to fight over the major ones, but look at the point multiplier. If we hold a low-value objective for more than 72 hours, the points triple. 3 small objectives held for the full week are worth more than 1 major objective held for 2 days. Vex studied the map carefully. "You want us to avoid the fighting entirely?" "For the first 4 days, yes," said. "We let everyone else exhaust themselves fighting. We secure these positions, fortify them, and wait. By the time other squads realize our strategy, they will be too tired and depleted to take the objectives from us." "It is not a warrior's strategy," rumbled. "It feels like hiding." "It is smart," clicked. "The goal is points, not glory." "The goal is not getting expelled," added. "I prefer plan to risking everything in early combat." Vex was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "We do its way, but if things go wrong, we adapt," agreed. Everyone agreed. The war game began at dawn. Transport ships dropped all 40 squads at their starting locations simultaneously. Delta 7 landed in a valley surrounded by high cliffs, their assigned base a series of pre-built defensive structures. Immediately, the communication channels filled with reports of combat. Squads were clashing over the major objectives within the first hour, listened to the chaos and smiled. Everything was going exactly as predicted. "We move out," Vex ordered. "Target the eastern mining station first. It is closest and provides good defensive terrain." They traveled quickly through the valleys, avoiding main routes where they might encounter other squads. The mining station was a cluster of abandoned buildings on a hilltop with excellent sight lines in all directions. More importantly, it was far from any major objective that other squads cared about. They claimed it without opposition and immediately began fortifying, used his strength to move heavy equipment into defensive positions, scouted the surrounding area, set up early warning sensors using materials scavenged from the buildings, and Vex prepared defensive fighting positions. Coordinated everything, making sure their defenses would hold against any assault. By the end of the first day, they had secured all 3 of their target objectives. Each was fortified and defended, and they had encountered 0 combat. "This feels wrong," said that night. "We should be fighting." "We will fight if someone tries to take our objectives," said. "But why start fights we do not need to win?" The second and third days followed the same pattern. Other squads continued battling over major objectives. Leadership changed hands multiple times as squads fought, won, lost, and fought again. Several squads were eliminated entirely when all their members were taken out of action by injuries. Delta 7 sat in their 3 fortified positions, accumulating points hour by hour, completely ignored by everyone else. On the morning of the 4th day, Squad discovered what Delta 7 was doing. Was reviewing their point total when the communication alert sounded. It was a general broadcast from "Clever humans and friends," his voice said over the speakers. "Very clever, but your trick is discovered. We are coming for your objectives." Vex looked at. "They will hit us with everything they have. Squad is ranked second overall. They are fresh and aggressive." "Let them come," said. "We have been fortified here for 3 days. They will have to take all 3 objectives to significantly hurt our score. Can they do that?" "Possibly," Vex admitted. "They are very good." "Then we need to make a choice," said. "Do we defend all 3 positions and risk losing all of them, or do we abandon 2 and make an absolutely unbreakable defense at 1? Clicked thoughtfully. "If we abandon 2, we lose those accumulated points. But if we try to defend 3 positions against concentrated force, we might lose all 3, countered. "Better to guarantee keeping 1 than risk losing everything." Vex made a decision. "We consolidate at the mining station. It has the best terrain. We can hold there." They moved quickly, abandoning their other 2 objectives and bringing all their resources to the mining station. They had 6 hours before Squad would arrive. Used every minute. She designed overlapping fields of fire. She created false defensive positions that looked important but were actually empty. She set traps using mining equipment that would slow attackers. She positioned their squad members where their individual strengths would matter most. When Squad appeared on the horizon, Delta 7 was ready. The assault began at sunset. Squad was methodical and professional. They probed the defenses, looking for weaknesses. They tested different approaches. They were in no hurry, knowing they had days to break through, but had designed the defenses to have no weak points. Every approach was covered. Every gap was a trap. Every seemingly easy route led to a kill zone. The fighting lasted through the night. Squad kept pulling back, regrouping, and trying new tactics. Delta 7 held firm, wearing them down bit by bit. By morning, called a temporary halt. His squad pulled back to rest and reassess. "They cannot break us," Vex said, satisfaction in his voice. "Not without losses they cannot afford." "They will try something different," predicted. "Is too smart to keep throwing his squad at our defenses." She was right. That afternoon, tried a new approach. Instead of assaulting the mining station, his squad attacked one of Delta 7's abandoned objectives. They captured it easily and began accumulating points. Watch the point totals shift. "He is racing us now. He will hold that objective and try to outscore us over time instead of breaking our defense." "So what do we do?" asked. Looked at the tactical map. Then she looked at the current squad rankings. Then she smiled her biggest smile of the entire war game. "We raid," she said. "Raid what?" Vex asked. "Everything," replied. "Look at the map. Everyone has been fighting over the same major objectives for 6 days now. They are all exhausted. They are all depleted. Their defenses are weak because they have been fighting non-stop. We are the only squad that is fully rested and fully supplied." "You want us to attack?" asked, surprised. "I want us to hit 3 major objectives in rapid succession while everyone else is too tired to stop us," said. "We already have enough points from holding the mining station to guarantee we do not get expelled. Now we can take risks, and the biggest risk is also the biggest opportunity." Vex looked at the map, considering. Then he started to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling laugh that shook his entire frame. "You are absolutely insane, human," he said. "I love it, we do it." They left to defend the mining station with automated defenses and early warning systems. The other 5 members of Delta 7 moved out under cover of darkness. Their first target was the Northern Communications Relay, currently held by a squad that had been fighting almost continuously for 5 days. Delta 7 hit them fast and hard. The defenders were so exhausted they barely put up resistance. Delta 7 captured the objective in less than 20 minutes. They did not stay to hold it. As soon as they captured it and registered the points, they moved to the next target. The second objective was a supply depot held by another exhausted squad. Same result. Fast assault, quick capture, immediate departure. The third objective was the central command post, the highest value target in the entire game. It was held by the top-ranked squad, but they had been defending it against constant attacks for days. When Delta 7 appeared, fresh and aggressive, the defenders tried to hold. They failed. Delta 7 captured the command post just as the first light of dawn appeared on the horizon. That is when realized what was happening. His squad, still holding Delta 7's abandoned objective, raced toward the command post to intercept. But they were across the map and time was against them. The final hours of the war game became a desperate race. Squad pushed their speed to the limit, trying to reach the command post before the timer expired. Delta 7 fortified their new position as quickly as possible, preparing for the assault they knew was coming. Squad arrived with 30 minutes remaining. They hit Delta 7's hastily prepared defenses with everything they had. The fighting was brutal and desperate. Did not participate in the direct combat. She stayed behind cover, watching the battle flow, calling out positions and warnings to her squad members. She saw patterns in his attacks. She predicted where he would strike next. "Vex left flank in 10 seconds, she called out. Vex moved. 3 seconds later, 2 of squad members appeared exactly where had predicted. Vex was ready for them. Watch the overhead approach. They will try the roof again. Repositioned. When squad tried to come from above, they met solid resistance. With 5 minutes remaining, himself reached the command post's main entrance. He fought through their defenses with raw power and skill. For a moment, it looked like he might actually break through. Then the timer expired. The simulation froze. All combatants stopped mid-motion. The automated voice announced, "War game complete, final scoring in progress." Everyone waited in exhausted silence. Sat against a wall, her entire body shaking from adrenaline and fatigue. She had no idea if their gamble had paid off. The results appeared on everyone's displays simultaneously. Squad rankings scrolled across the screen. Delta 7 finished in second place overall. They had missed first by only 40 points, but second place was far above the elimination zone. They had secured their position at the academy. The squad had finished first. As the simulation environment dissolved and they all returned to the academy's main hall, approached Delta 7. He looked tired but satisfied. "Brilliant," he said, looking directly at. "Absolutely brilliant. We thought we had you trapped at that mining station. Then you hit us from 3 directions at once while we were out of position." "You almost caught us at the end," replied. 5 more minutes and you would have won." "But we did not have 5 more minutes," said. "Because you planned perfectly, you earned second place." The graduation ceremony was held 3 days later. All cadets who had survived the semester assembled in the main hall. War Master stood before them, his crimson scales gleaming under the lights. "You began as 200 cadets," he said. "You end as 147, some left due to failure, some left due to injury. Some left because they realized this life was not for them. Those of you who remain have proven you belong here." He began announcing various awards and honors: combat excellence, physical achievement, leadership under pressure. Then he announced a new category. "This semester we witnessed something unprecedented," said. "A human cadet from a species never before represented at this academy has shown us all that warfare evolves. That strength comes in many forms, that the greatest threat is not always the most obvious one." He looked directly at Collins' approach. Walked to the platform, her heart pounding. Around her, every cadet in the hall was watching. "You were admitted to this academy by accident," said. "A clerical error sent your application to the wrong program. You could have withdrawn. You could have complained. Instead, you chose to see opportunity where others would see only disaster." He held up a medal. It was a simple design, but recognized it from her studies. The Tactical Excellence Medal, awarded to cadets who demonstrated superior strategic thinking. "You do not win by being stronger," continued. "You win by making strength irrelevant. You survive not through power, but through intelligence, adaptability, and sheer stubborn refusal to quit. You have earned this." He placed the medal around her neck. The hall erupted in applause, not polite applause. Genuine, enthusiastic applause from warriors who had learned to respect the small human who smiled at impossible challenges. When the ceremony ended, found her squad waiting for her. "So," Vex said, "advanced training begins next semester. Delta 7 continues together. We want you as our permanent strategist." "Are you sure?" asked. "I am still the weakest fighter, still the slowest runner, still the smallest member." "You are also the planner, the best observer, and the most stubborn person I have ever met," Vex replied. "We need all of those things." "Then I accept," said, grinning. That night, she sent a message home to New Terra. She told her parents about the graduation, about the medal, about how the clerical error that had sent her to War Academy instead of civilian education had changed her entire life. "I know you were terrified," she wrote. "I know you thought I was making a terrible mistake. Maybe I was, but it was my mistake to make, and it turned out to be the best accident of my life. I found something here I never would have found in civilian education. I found my purpose. I found my people. I found out what I am capable of when I refuse to quit." She finished the message and set down the. Tomorrow, advanced training would begin. New challenges, new trials, new opportunities to prove that humans belonged among the galaxy's greatest warriors. Looked at the medal on her desk. Then she looked out the window at the stars beyond the station. She was smiling. She was always smiling. Because somewhere in the galaxy's largest bureaucracy, someone had made a simple clerical error. They had transposed two numbers in an application code. That tiny mistake had sent a human girl to the galaxy's deadliest academy. And that girl had grinned like it was fun. She was still grinning, and she was just getting started. Smiled, not the pained smile from the fight with, not the nervous smile from her first day. This was a smile of confidence and belonging. "I think we are going to surprise everyone," she said. "Again." And shrink below them. 72 hours of hell. 72 hours of pushing past every limit she thought she had. And she had loved every minute of it. "Maybe," had replied, "but what a way to go." Now lying in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, let the smile fade. She allowed herself to feel the fear, the doubt, the very real possibility that she had made a terrible mistake. Then she thought about the look on the administrator's face when she had registered, the surprise in his voice when her predictions proved correct, the grudging respect in Vex's tone when he said she had done well. The smile returned. She fell asleep wearing it, dreaming of hostile moons and impossible challenges and the look on everyone's faces when she survived them all. She was going to try, and she was going to enjoy every moment of it.